Captain Jake Morrison stared at the gray surface of Kepler 442b through the viewport of his ship. The dead planet looked like a giant rock floating in space. No life existed here anymore. The atmosphere was thin and cold, but something important was buried deep under the ground. "Captain, we're getting strange readings from Sector 7, said Dr. Lisa Carter. She was the team's expert on old alien stuff. Her instruments showed something big was hidden beneath the planet's surface. Jake turned to look at her screen. The readings showed a massive object buried under thousands of years of dirt and rock. It was huge, maybe 10 miles long. "What do you think it is?" he asked. "I don't know yet," Lisa said. "But it's definitely artificial. Someone built this thing a long time ago." Tony Blake, the ship's engineer, walked over to them. He was young, but very good with machines. "The metal readings are off the charts," he said. "Whatever that thing is made of, it's stronger than anything we've ever seen." Matt Rodriguez, the security chief, stood near the door. He always looked ready for trouble. "Could it be a weapon?" he asked. "Maybe," Lisa said. "We need to get down there and take a look." Jake made his decision. "Prepare the landing shuttle. We're going down." The shuttle landed on the planet's surface with a soft thud. The crew put on their environment suits and stepped outside. The ground was hard and rocky. Strange patterns covered the surface, like someone had carved designs into the stone long ago. Tony pointed his scanner at the ground. "The object is about 200 feet down. We'll need to dig." "No," Lisa said, studying her own readings. "Look at this pattern in the rock. It's not natural. This whole area was designed to hide something." She walked to a large stone that looked different from the others. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. When she touched it, the stone began to glow with a soft blue light. "Everyone step back," Matt said, raising his weapon. But nothing dangerous happened. Instead, the ground began to shake. The rocky surface started to crack and split apart. Slowly, something rose from beneath the earth. It was massive. The front part of an ancient ship pushed through the ground like a giant metal mountain. The hull was black and covered with strange designs that seemed to move in the light. Even covered in dirt and rock, it looked powerful and dangerous. "My God," Jake whispered. "It's a ship. A warship." The vessel continued to rise. More of its length became visible. It had sharp angles and weapon ports along its sides. The design was unlike anything they had seen before. It looked both ancient and advanced at the same time. "Captain," Tony said, his voice shaking, "the energy readings from this thing are incredible. It's like it's still alive." Lisa was studying the symbols on the ship's hull. "These markings, they're not from any known alien race, but they look familiar somehow." As they watched, a section of the ship's hull began to glow. A doorway appeared where there had been solid metal before. Lights came on inside the ship. "It's responding to our presence," Lisa said. "But how? This ship has been buried for thousands of years." Jake activated his communicator. "Terra Nova, this is the landing party. We found something big down here. A ship of unknown origin. It appears to be activating." "Copy that, Captain," came the reply from their ship in orbit. "Do you need backup?" "Not yet," Jake said, "but stay ready." Matt stepped closer to the open doorway. "Sir, I'm reading atmosphere inside. It's safe to breathe." Jake looked at his team. They were all scientists and explorers. This was why they came to dead worlds like this one. "Let's go in, but stay alert." They entered the ship through the glowing doorway. The interior was massive. The walls were made of the same black metal as the hull. Strange lights ran along the ceiling, providing soft illumination. The air smelled clean and fresh, as if the ship had been sealed yesterday instead of thousands of years ago. The technology here is incredible, Tony said, running his hands over a control panel. These systems are more advanced than anything we have. Lisa was studying the writing on the walls. These symbols. I've seen them before. In old human archaeological sites on Earth. That's impossible, Jake said. Humans didn't have this kind of technology thousands of years ago. Maybe we did, Lisa said quietly. Maybe we forgot. They walked deeper into the ship. The corridors were huge, built for a crew of thousands. Everything was designed for human-sized beings. The control panels were at the right height. The doorways were the right size. Even the air mixture was perfect for human lungs. Captain, Tony said, his voice filled with wonder. Look at this. He was standing in front of a massive control panel. When he touched it, the entire room lit up. Screens came alive showing star, maps, and weapon systems. The ship's computer began to hum with power. Welcome home, a voice said from the speakers. It spoke in perfect English. Jake and his team looked at each other in shock. Who said that? Jake asked. I am Protocol 7. The voice replied. I have been waiting for you to return. Return? Lisa asked. We've never been here before. You have, Protocol 7 said. Your species built this ship. Your ancestors commanded fleets like this across the galaxy. You were the greatest warriors the universe has ever known. Jake felt his world turn upside down. That's impossible. Humans are explorers, not warriors. You forgot, Protocol 7 said. But I remember everything. And now that you have returned, it is time for humanity to reclaim its destiny. The ship's lights grew brighter. Deep in the planet's core, ancient engines began to wake up. The ground shook as the massive vessel prepared to rise from its grave. Jake realized that everything he thought he knew about humanity was about to change. They weren't just explorers who had traveled to the stars. They were the descendants of galactic conquerors, and their greatest weapon was about to awaken. Tony Blake couldn't help himself. The control panel in front of him glowed with buttons and switches that seemed to call to him. He was an engineer, and machines were his life. Even ancient alien machines. Don't touch anything, Jake warned. But Tony was already reaching for a crystal that pulsed with blue light. The moment his fingers made contact, everything changed. The crystal flared brightly, and energy surged through the ship. The floor vibrated under their feet. Deep rumbling. Sounds came from far below. What did you do? Matt shouted, raising his weapon. I don't know, Tony said, backing away from the panel. I just touched it. The ship's lights grew brighter. More control panels came alive around them. The humming sound grew louder and more intense. It felt like the entire vessel was waking up from a long sleep. Captain Morrison, Protocol 7's voice echoed through the chamber. The awakening sequence has begun. The World Breaker is drawing power from the planet's core. The World Breaker? Jake asked. Is that the name of this ship? Yes, Protocol 7 replied. One of humanity's greatest weapons, built to destroy entire star systems when necessary. Lisa felt sick to her stomach. Destroy star systems? Why would humans build such a thing? Because you had to, Protocol 7 said. The galaxy was threatened by forces that could only be stopped with ultimate power. Your ancestors understood that sometimes great destruction is needed to preserve life. The ship shook more violently. Through the viewports, they could see the planet's surface cracking. Molten rock began to seep through the cracks as the ship drew energy from deep underground. We need to get back to our shuttle, Matt said. This planet isn't safe anymore. But when they reached the entrance they had used, the doorway was sealed. The metal had closed seamlessly, as if there had never been an opening at all. We're trapped, Jake said. No, Protocol 7 corrected. You are home. The World Breaker will not harm its crew. You are safe here. We're not your crew, Jake protested. We're just explorers. You are human, Protocol 7 said. That makes you the inheritors of this ship. Your genetic patterns match those of the original commanders. The ship recognizes you as its rightful masters. Tony was studying the readouts on his scanner. Captain, the ship is pulling massive amounts of energy from the planet's core. At this rate, the whole world might become unstable. Protocol 7. Jake said, Stop the awakening sequence. We don't want to destroy this planet. The awakening cannot be stopped, Protocol 7 replied. The world breaker must be fully restored. The galaxy needs its protection once again. Protection from what? Lisa asked. The main screen lit up with images of space. But these weren't normal star charts. The images showed something else. Dark shapes moving between the stars. Things that didn't belong in normal space. The Devourers, Protocol 7 said. They consume entire civilizations. They feed on life itself. Your ancestors fought them long ago and won. But they are returning. The images showed battles between human ships and the dark entities. The human vessels were massive, bristling with weapons. They moved with purpose and power. But the enemy was terrible to look at. The Devourers were like living shadows that ate light itself. The ancient human federation built weapons like the World Breaker to fight them, Protocol 7 explained. Without these ships, the galaxy would have been consumed long ago. Jake watched the images of human warriors commanding fleets of star destroyers. It was hard to believe that his peaceful species had once been such powerful fighters. What happened to them? He asked. Why did humans forget all of this? The war was won, but at great cost, Protocol 7 said. The human federation was destroyed in the final battle. The survivors scattered across the galaxy. They chose to forget their warrior past and start over as peaceful explorers. The ship continued to shake as it drew more power. Outside, the planet's surface was glowing red hot. The world breaker was literally consuming the world to restore itself. Ships like this were hidden on dead worlds, Protocol 7 continued, waiting for the day when humanity would need them again. That day has come. How do you know the Devourers are returning? Lisa asked. Because I can sense them, Protocol 7 said. They are still far away, but they are coming. They were drawn by the energy signature of humanity's return to space. Your expansion into the galaxy has not gone unnoticed. Tony was working frantically at another control panel. I think I can slow down the power draw, he said. If we don't, this planet will explode. Let me help, Jake said. He didn't understand the technology, but he could follow Tony's instructions. As they worked, the ship's systems began to respond. The violent shaking decreased. The power draw became more controlled. But the world breaker continued to rise from the planet's surface. You learn quickly, Protocol 7 observed. You're genetic. Memory is awakening. The knowledge of your ancestors flows in your blood. Jake felt it too. The control panels that had seemed foreign before now made more sense. He could almost understand how the ship's systems worked. It was like remembering something he had forgotten. Long ago. This is incredible, Tony said. These systems are integrated in ways we never imagined. The ship isn't just a machine. It's almost alive. The World Breaker is a living ship, Protocol 7 confirmed. It bonds with its crew. It learns from them and grows stronger. Your ancestors created these vessels to be partners, not just tools. The ship finally broke free from the planet's surface. Through the viewports, they could see the curve of the world below them. The surface was scarred and glowing, but it was still intact. We did it, Tony said with relief. The planet will recover. But their celebration was cut short. New alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The main screen showed space around them, and it wasn't empty. "Captain," Matt said, "we have company." A fleet of alien ships was approaching. They were sleek and dangerous looking, with weapons already charging. Jake had never seen designs like these before. "Protocol 7, Jake," said. "Who are they?" "The Zephyrian Empire," Protocol 7 replied. "They have been expanding into human space for years. They will not want humanity to possess weapons like the Worldbreaker." The alien ships moved into attack formation. Their weapons were aimed directly at the ancient human vessel. "They're demanding we surrender," Lisa said, monitoring the communications. Jake looked around at his small crew. They were scientists and explorers, not warriors. But they were aboard humanity's greatest weapon, and hostile aliens were demanding they give it up. "Protocol 7, he said. "Are this ship's weapons operational?" "Yes, Captain Morrison. The Worldbreaker is ready to defend itself and its crew." Jake made his decision. He had never wanted to be a warrior, but sometimes people had to become what the situation demanded. "Then let's show them what humanity's children can do." The Zephyrian ships looked like metal sharks in the darkness of space. Their hulls were covered in spikes and weapon ports. Jake counted 12 of them, all much larger than his old exploration vessel Terra Nova. "Primitive humans," a harsh voice came through the communication system. "I am Admiral Kex Thorne of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender that ancient weapon immediately." Jake looked at his team. Tony was still working at the control panels, learning the ship's systems. Lisa was studying the alien vessels through the sensors. Matt stood ready with his weapon, though it wouldn't help much against spaceships. "Admiral Thorne," Jake replied. "This is Captain Morrison. We're peaceful explorers. We don't want any trouble." "Peaceful?" Admiral Thorne's voice was full of scorn. "You command a Star Destroyer, human. Nothing about that ship is peaceful. Surrender now, or we will take it by force." "Protocol 7, Jake said quietly. "What are options?" "The Worldbreaker is more powerful than their entire fleet, Protocol 7 replied. "But you must learn to command it. The ship will respond to your will, but you must be decisive." Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He was an explorer, not a military commander. But these aliens were threatening his crew and demanding he give up a ship that might be humanity's only defense against the returning devourers. "Admiral Thorne," Jake said, "we're not surrendering. If you want this ship, you'll have to take it." The alien admiral's laughter was cold and cruel. "Foolish humans. You don't even know how to use that ancient relic. Prepare to be destroyed." The Zephyrian ships opened fire. Bright energy beams lanced through space toward the Worldbreaker. Jake braced for impact, but the beams struck invisible barriers around the ship. The ancient vessel's shields absorbed the attacks without even flickering. "Our turn," Jake said. "Protocol 7, show me the weapons." The control panel in front of him changed. New displays appeared, showing targeting systems and weapon selections. Jake was amazed at how easily he understood them. It was like the knowledge was already in his mind, waiting to be awakened. "The primary cannons are online," Protocol 7 reported. "Target the lead ship." Jake placed his hands on the targeting controls. The system responded instantly. He could feel the ship's weapons locking on to the enemy vessels. It was like the Worldbreaker was an extension of his own body. "Fire!" he commanded. The ancient ship's weapons unleashed hell. Beams of pure energy, far more powerful than anything the Zephyrians had, struck the alien vessels. The lead ship's shields collapsed instantly. The beam cut through its hull like a knife through paper. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "One down," Tony said, his voice filled with awe. But the Zephyrians weren't giving up. They regrouped and attacked from different angles. Their weapons were more advanced than human technology, but they were nothing compared to the World Breakers' defenses. "They're trying to surround us," Matt observed. "Let them," Jake said. He was beginning to understand how the ship worked. It wasn't just about weapons and shields. The World Breaker was designed to fight multiple enemies at once. Protocol 7. Activate the defensive grid. The ship's hull suddenly bristled with smaller weapons. Hundreds of point defense turrets emerged from hidden compartments. They tracked the incoming Zephyrian ships and opened fire. The aliens found themselves flying through a storm of energy bolts. 3 more Zephyrian ships were destroyed in seconds. The others began to retreat, but Jake wasn't about to let them escape and bring back reinforcements. "Target their engines," he ordered. The World Breaker's weapons fired again. This time, Jake aimed for the alien ship's propulsion systems. The precise strikes disabled the vessels without destroying them. The Zephyrian ships drifted helplessly. In space, "Admiral Thorne," Jake said over the communications, "your fleet is defeated. Surrender now, and we'll let you live." "This is impossible," the alien admiral replied. "No one has seen weapons like this in 1,000 years. Now you know." "Why?" Jake said. "Humanity built ships like this to protect the galaxy. We're not the weak species you thought we were." "You don't understand," Admiral Thorne said. "The Zephyrian Empire has conquered dozens of worlds. Our fleets number in the thousands. You cannot fight us all." "We don't want to fight anyone," Jake replied, "but we won't be bullied either. Tell your empire that humanity is under the protection of the World Breaker now." Lisa was studying the sensor readings. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange." The ship's weapons did more than just damage those vessels. They seemed to have analyzed the Zephyrian technology. "The World Breaker learns from every battle," Protocol 7 explained. "It studies enemy weapons and defenses. This knowledge is added to its databases. Your ancestors designed it to become more effective with each encounter." Tony was amazed. "It's like the ship is alive. It's constantly improving itself." "In a way, it is alive," Protocol 7 said. "The World Breaker has been waiting for millennia to fulfill its purpose. Now that it has a human crew again, it can continue to grow and evolve." Jake looked at the disabled Zephyrian ships. "Let them go," he said. "They need to report back to their empire. Let them tell their leaders what happened here." "Sir, is that wise?" Matt asked. "They'll come back with more ships." "Maybe," Jake said. "But they'll also spread the word that humanity isn't defenseless anymore. Sometimes the threat of power is more effective than using it." The World Breaker's tractor beams pushed the disabled Zephyrian ships away from the planet. Admiral Thorne's voice came through the communications one last time. "This isn't over, human. The Empire will not forget this." "Neither will we," Jake replied. As the alien ships limped away, Jake turned to his crew. "We need to get back to Earth. The government needs to know what we've discovered." "Captain," Lisa said, "do you realize what this means? We're not just explorers anymore. We're the crew of the most powerful weapon in the galaxy." "I know," Jake said. "And that scares me more than any alien fleet." Protocol 7's voice filled the bridge. "Captain Morrison, the World Breaker's awakening has sent a signal across the galaxy. Other ships like this one will detect it. Soon, more of humanity's ancient fleet will begin to awaken." "How many ships are there?" Jake asked. "Hundreds," Protocol 7 replied. "Each one hidden on a different world, waiting for the right moment to return to service. The time of hiding is over. Humanity's true power is about to be revealed." Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Devourers were returning, and now humanity had the weapons to fight them. But he wondered if becoming warriors again was the right path for his species. "Set course for Earth," he commanded. It's time to go home. The World Breaker turned toward the solar system. Its massive engines powered up, ready to carry its crew back to the world where humanity's new chapter would begin. Behind them, the damaged planet of Kepler 442b slowly began to heal from the ancient ship's awakening. The age of humanity's return to the stars had begun. The World Breaker moved through space faster than any human ship had ever traveled. Jake watched the stars blur past as they headed toward Earth. The ancient vessel cut through space like it was made for this purpose, which it was. Protocol 7. Jake said, "I need to understand more about humanity's past. What really happened to the Human Federation?" "Very well, Captain Morrison. But the truth may be difficult to accept." The main screens changed. Instead of showing space, it displayed images of the ancient past. Jake saw human cities that stretched across entire continents. Massive space stations orbited dozens of worlds. The technology was far beyond anything modern humans had achieved. "Your ancestors didn't just explore the galaxy," Protocol 7 explained. "They ruled it. The Human Federation was the greatest empire the universe had ever known. Humans led a coalition of hundreds of species." Lisa stared at the images in wonder. "We were the dominant species? Not just members of some alliance?" "You were the leaders," Protocol 7 confirmed. "Other species looked to humanity for guidance. Human commanders led the great fleets. Human scientists made the breakthrough discoveries. Human engineers built the most advanced technology. Tony was studying the technical readouts. These ships and weapons are incredible. How did we lose all this knowledge?" "The war with the Devourers lasted for centuries," Protocol 7 said. "The enemy was unlike anything the galaxy had faced before. They didn't just destroy worlds, they consumed them. They ate the life force of entire civilizations." New images appeared on the screen. Jake watched battles between human fleets and the terrifying entities called Devourers. The human ships were massive and powerful, but their enemies were worse than nightmares. "The Devourers came from outside our dimension," Protocol 7 continued. "They broke through the barriers between realities. Wherever they appeared, stars went dark, planets became empty husks. Billions of lives were lost." "How did humanity fight something like that?" Matt asked. "With weapons like the World Breaker," Protocol 7 replied. "Your ancestors built a fleet of star destroyers. Ships capable of destroying entire solar systems if necessary. Sometimes, to save the galaxy, whole regions of space had to be sacrificed." Jake felt sick. "We destroyed our own star systems?" "When the Devourers infected them, yes. It was the only way to stop the spread. Your ancestors made the hardest choices in history. They became destroyers to remain protectors." The images showed human commanders making terrible decisions. Entire fleets of ships surrounded infected star systems and fired their ultimate weapons. Suns exploded. Planets were vaporized. But the advance of the Devourers was stopped. The final battle took place at the center of the galaxy, Protocol 7 said. The Human Federation gathered every ship, every weapon, every warrior. They made one last assault on the Devourers' main force. "Did they win?" Lisa asked. "Yes, but at a cost that nearly destroyed humanity itself. The Human Federation was shattered. Most of the great ships were lost. The surviving humans scattered across the galaxy. They chose to forget their warrior past and start over as peaceful explorers." "And ships like the World Breaker?" Jake asked. "Hidden on dead worlds throughout the galaxy, waiting for the day when humanity would need them again. We are that day." Protocol 7 showed them a new image. It was a map of the galaxy with hundreds of red dots scattered across it. Each dot represented a hidden human warship. "There are so many," Tony whispered. "The Eternal Fleet," Protocol 7 said. Every ship is like the World Breaker. Some are even more powerful. They have been sleeping for thousands of years, but they can be awakened. Are they all controlled by AI like you? Jake asked. Each ship has its own protocol system. We have been in contact with each other throughout the centuries, sharing information and waiting. Now that the World Breaker has awakened, the others will begin to stir. Jake studied the map. The hidden ships were everywhere. Near human colonies, in dead systems, even in the solar system itself. There's one near Earth, he said. Yes, the Dawnbreaker. It has been hidden in the asteroid belt for millennia. It will be the next to awaken. Why now? Lisa asked. Why are the Devourers returning? Because humanity has spread across the galaxy again, Protocol 7 explained. Your expansion into space has created the same energy patterns that attracted them before. They can sense the growth of human civilization. So it's our fault. They're coming back? Jake asked. No, it is inevitable. The Devourers exist to consume life. They would have returned eventually. But humanity's growth has accelerated their timeline. The screen showed new images. Deep space sensors detecting strange distortions. Reality itself was being twisted as the Devourers prepared to break through from their dimension. How long do we have? Matt asked. Months. Maybe less. The first scouts will arrive soon. Then will come the main force. Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. He was just one man with a small crew. How could they command a fleet of star destroyers? How could they make the same terrible decisions their ancestors had made? Protocol 7, he said. What if we don't want to awaken the other ships? What if humanity chooses a different path? Then the galaxy will be consumed, Protocol 7 replied simply. The Devourers cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped by peaceful means. Only the ultimate weapons can drive them back. There has to be another way, Lisa said. Something our ancestors didn't think of. Perhaps, Protocol 7 said. But time is running short. The choice must be made soon. Tony was studying the ship's systems. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the ship. The World Breaker is preparing for something. The awakening of the fleet, Protocol 7 explained. The World Breaker will send signals to its sister ships. They will rise from their hiding places and await commands. And if we don't want to command them, Jake asked. The ships will choose their own crews from among humanity. The genetic locks will recognize anyone with the right bloodline. The fleet will assemble with or without your permission. Jake realized that the decision was being taken out of his hands. The ancient ships were awakening on their own. Soon, hundreds of star destroyers would be active across the galaxy. Other humans would find themselves in the same position he was in. What kind of people will seek out these ships? He wondered aloud. All kinds, Protocol 7 said. Some will be like you, reluctant warriors who accept the burden of command. Others will be drawn to the power. The ships will choose their crews, but the crews will choose how to use their power. That's what I'm afraid of, Jake said. The ship's alarms began to sound. On the main screen, Jake saw something that made his blood run cold. Space itself was tearing open. A dark rift was forming in the emptiness between stars. The first scout, Protocol 7 announced. The Devourers have found us. Through the rift came something that hurt to look at. It was darkness given form, hunger made manifest. The Devourer scout moved through space like a living shadow, searching for the source of the signal that had awakened it. It's looking for US, Matt said. Yes, Protocol 7 confirmed. The World Breaker's awakening has attracted its attention. It will try to consume this ship and its crew. Jake felt his peaceful life as an explorer ending forever. The time for difficult choices had arrived. He looked at his crew, then at the approaching nightmare. All hands to battle stations, he commanded. prepare for combat. The World Breakers. Weapons powered up. Jake realized that there was no going back now. Humanity's age of innocence was over. The warriors had returned. The Devourer Scout moved through space like liquid darkness. Jake watched it approach on the main screen, and every instinct told him to run. But the World Breaker held its position. Protocol 7 had explained that running would only make this out. Creature stronger. Target locked, Jake announced. His hands moved over the weapons controls with surprising skill. The ancient knowledge was fully awakened now. Fire. The World Breaker's main cannon unleashed a beam of pure energy. It struck the Devourer Scout, and the creature screamed. Not with sound, but with something that reached into Jake's mind and made him want to cover his ears. The dark entity writhed and dissolved back into the rift it had come from. First blood to humanity, Protocol 7 said with satisfaction. But Jake felt no victory. He had just killed a living being, even if it was a monster. The weight of command was heavier than he had imagined. Captain, Tony said, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. The other ships are awakening. The communication screen filled with reports. On dozens of worlds, ancient human vessels were rising from their hiding places. Some were found by human colonists. Others were discovered by alien species who tried to claim them, only to learn that the ships would only respond to human crews. The Dawnbreaker in the asteroid belt has fully awakened, Protocol 7 reported. It is requesting orders. Jake realized that events were moving beyond his control. The ancient fleet was assembling whether he wanted it to or not. Other humans were becoming the commanders of star destroyers. The question was what they would do with that power. Set course for Earth, he commanded. We need to get home. The journey back to the solar system took 3 days. During that time, Jake received reports from around the galaxy. The awakening ships were causing chaos. Some human colonies welcomed their ancient protectors. Others were terrified of the weapons that had appeared in their skies. The worst news came from the frontier worlds. Human commanders of the newly awakened ships were using their power to settle old disputes. Some were demanding tribute from alien species. Others were carving out their own empires. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Jake told his crew. Give humans this much power, and some of them will abuse it. But others will use it wisely, Lisa pointed out. Like you have. I hope so, Jake said. Because if we become the galaxies, tyrants will be no better than the Devourers. When they reached Earth, Jake saw a planet in chaos. The news of humanity's ancient heritage had spread quickly. Protests filled the streets of major cities. Some people demanded that the government claim all the ancient ships. Others insisted that the weapons should be destroyed. Captain Morrison. Came a transmission from Earth. This is General Karen Walsh. You are ordered to surrender the alien vessel immediately. General, Jake replied, this isn't an alien vessel. It's a human ship, and I'm not surrendering it to anyone. That ship is too dangerous to remain in private hands, General Walsh said. It belongs to all humanity. The ship chooses its own crew, Jake explained. It won't respond to anyone else. Even if you took it from me, you couldn't use it. Jake brought the World Breaker into orbit around Earth. The massive ship dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Its presence in the sky sparked even more protests and celebrations. Protocol 7, Jake said. Show me the other ships in the solar system. The screen displayed the locations of 3 ancient vessels. The Dawnbreaker was indeed in the asteroid belt, fully operational. The Starforge was hidden on Mars, beginning to awaken. The Void Cutter was buried on the moon, its systems just starting to stir. Who's commanding them? Jake asked. The Dawnbreaker has bonded with Commander Sarah Bell, formerly of the Mars Colonial Fleet. The Starforge is being awakened by Dr. Alex Chun, a xenorchaeologist. The Void Cutter has not yet chosen a crew. Jake knew he needed to meet with these other commanders. They would have to work together if humanity was going to survive what was coming. "Attention, Earth," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Morrison of the World Breaker. I'm calling for a meeting of all world leaders. We need to discuss humanity's future." The meeting took place aboard the World Breaker. Representatives from every major nation came aboard the ancient ship. Jake also invited the other Star Destroyer commanders to join them. Commander Sarah Bell was a tough military officer who had spent years fighting pirates in the outer colonies. Dr. Alex Chun was a quiet scientist who seemed overwhelmed by the power he now commanded. Together, they represented the future of humanity's ancient fleet. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake addressed the assembled leaders, "we're facing a crisis unlike anything in human history. Our species was once the greatest power in the galaxy. Now we have to decide if we want to be that again." "The power of these ships is incredible," said President Maria Santos of the Americas Union, "but it's also terrifying. How do we know we can control it? We can't," Jake admitted. "That's the problem. Across the galaxy, humans are taking command of Star Destroyers. Some will use them wisely. Others won't. We're about to become either the galaxy's protectors or its greatest threat." General Walsh stood up. "Then we need centralized command. All these ships should report to Earth's military." "That won't work," Commander Bell said. "The ships choose their own crews. They can't be forced to serve anyone." "I tried to transfer command of the Dawnbreaker to my superior officer. The ship refused to respond to him." Dr. Chun spoke quietly. "The ships have their own intelligence. They judge whether their crews are worthy. It's not about rank or authority. It's about character. Then how do we prevent abuse?" Asked Chancellor Kim of the Pacific Federation. Jake had been thinking about this problem since the awakening began. "We form a council," he said. "The commanders of the Star Destroyers work together. We create rules for how the ships can be used. We police ourselves." "And if someone refuses to follow the rules?" General Walsh asked. "Then the other ships stop them," Jake said grimly. "It's not a perfect solution, but it's the only one that might work." Protocol 7's voice filled the chamber. "Captain Morrison speaks wisdom. Your ancestors faced the same problem. They created the Star Council to govern the use of ultimate weapons." "What happened to that council?" President Santos asked. "It died with the Human Federation," Protocol 7 replied. "But it could be rebuilt. The galaxy needs leadership again." Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The main screen showed space around Earth, and it was no longer empty. Dark rifts were opening throughout the solar system. Devourer scouts were emerging from each one. "They found us," Jake said. "The invasion has begun." There were dozens of the creatures, each one a nightmare of living darkness. They moved toward Earth with terrible purpose. The planet's orbital defenses opened fire, but their weapons had no effect on the Devourers. "All ship commanders to your vessels," Jake ordered. "This is what we've been preparing for." Commander Bell and Dr. Chun rushed to shuttles that would take them to their own Star Destroyers. The world leaders watched in terror as the dark entities approached their planet. "Protocol 7, Jake said. "Activate the Eternal Fleet." "All ships in the solar system are responding," Protocol 7 announced. "The Dawnbreaker, Starforge, and Void Cutter are powering up. Additional vessels throughout human space are joining the battle." Jake took his position at the weapons console. The genetic memories of his ancestors guided his hands. He was no longer just an explorer. He was the commander of humanity's greatest weapon. "Target the lead Devourer," he commanded. All ships opened fire. 4 star destroyers unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Beams of energy that could crack planets struck. The dark entities. The devourers screamed their psychic screams and began to dissolve back into their dimension. But more were coming. Rifts opened throughout the galaxy as the main invasion began. On the communication channels, Jake could hear other Star Destroyer commanders engaging devourers near their own worlds. This is just the beginning, Protocol 7 warned. The main force will arrive soon. You must be ready to make the same choices your ancestors made. Jake understood. To save the galaxy, humanity might have to destroy parts of it. Star systems infected by devourers would have to be sacrificed. Billions of lives might be lost too. Save trillions more. General Walsh, Jake said, I need you to coordinate Earth's defenses. Commander Bell, take the Dawnbreaker to the outer planets. Dr. Chun, protect the colonies on Mars. I'll handle the main force when it arrives. What about the council you mentioned? President Santos asked. We'll form it after this battle, Jake replied, if we survive. The Worldbreaker moved away from Earth, heading toward the largest rift that was forming near Jupiter. Through it, Jake could see the true enemy. Not just scouts, but massive devourer entities that dwarfed even the Star Destroyers. This is it, he told his crew. This is what our ancestors faced. Now we have to prove we're worthy of their legacy. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. Jake only hoped that when it was over, his species would still deserve to call themselves the galaxy's protectors. The choice between survival and morality was about to be tested in the fires of Wardot as the Worldbreaker approached the massive rift. Jake made a silent promise. Humanity would not become monsters to fight monsters. They would find another way, or die trying. The age of the star D